Oh, the humanity. Is this where we are in 2024? That the FIA, the levels of their incompetence is such that they don't even know where they're going, the circumstance, that the circuit had just been painted. That Wednesday was the earliest that they found out. This is the FIA, the regulatory body of a $1 billion sport. I spoke about this earlier, but then I've just read a motorsport.com article explaining the genesis story of the FIA's coming to realise that the Chinese Grand Prix circuit, the Shanghai International Circuit, has been painted. This is daft. And again, it's not paint, we're saying paint, but you understand I use that term loosely. It's bitumen, but it changes everything for the 20 teams, for the 10 drivers. You've got to front load this information, surely, if you're a regulatory body worth its metal. But we know already that the FIA are nothing of the sort. They have history, 2021 Abu Dhabi, a massive polemic, one of the greatest, one of the most controversial instances in sporting history. Any sport, by the way, not just F1. And F1 has had controversies, 88, 89, 90, 94, 2012, 2007, 2000. There has been loads of them, 94 inclusive in that. So for Abu Dhabi 21 to outdo itself and any other sporting instant in terms of its controversy, you would think then that the FIA would carry forward from that. Nothing if not for lessons learned. Surely on the back of Abu Dhabi 21 and everything that happened, all of the uncertainty, all of the rumour around protest, the disservice that you do to Max Verstappen as the champion, that this will always have an asterisk over it. Not me talking. This is the court of public opinion here. That's not fair to Max and it's not fair to Lewis. So you would think then that the FIA as the regulatory body would carry forward from that nothing if not for lessons learned and improvements, low-hanging fruit types that they could institute. How about we get permanent stewards in that can travel around the world with the drivers, just like Charlie Whiting used to? And unless we forget, back in Charlie's day, there were issues still, but nowhere near as many, nor as frequently as we are seeing today. And this is the bloody issue. Because the FIA haven't learned. I had Peter Windsor on my guide, my mentor, a couple of weeks back, and he said something to this effect, that Abu Dhabi was an absolute SH1T show and they didn't learn from it. They haven't taken anything from it. There were no lessons that they used, leveraged even, to improve F1 as a sport and improve the way in which they regulate the sport. Nothing. Scotch-free. It's as if they just escaped from that without scratch and just did one of these. We were lucky to get away with that. No, as a regulatory body worth its metal, by the way, who gets 40 to 50 million a year from Formula One, they should be instituting these things. Use code, automate systems. You remember Austria when they had 1,600 infringements and vowed to investigate them post-way. This is nonsense. This shouldn't happen. Automate your bloody systems. Mitigate for human error. Have full-time permanent stewards, surely. Pay them whatever they demand to get paid. The drivers go around every single Grand Prix. Team principals too. Engineers and pit crew too. So why can't you have a full-time steward? Why not? Like you have a full-time, well, you used to have a full-time race director and that never worked out well. But get a competent one for Pete's sake. One that knows and is respected by the drivers, just like Charlie Whiting was. Rewrite your rules and regs, because at the moment they still read like a 5-year-old's written. And I've spoke about this ad infinitum. How comes when I read them there are no terms and definitions at the outset? I've been through a gazillion contracts. This is what I do for a bloody living as a noddy bean counter and accountant. Every contract that I've ever looked through will have terms and definitions up front at the outset. What does it mean to overtake? When you're talking about the apex of a corner, where is that? Define it. So we're all singing from the same hymn sheet when we're talking about the rules. What is a combined exit? What are you talking about when you say error? When you're talking about safety restart, under what circumstances does that apply? Make it bloody clear so that F1 fans, lifelong F1 fans like myself, know what we are watching. We need to be talking the same bloody language here. If we're not, then people will dial out. It is already happening, chat, in real time. Every time you look at one of my videos that I post, people are saying, you know what, Cameron, I'm not even watching F1. I've been watching 60 years, no less. This season, though, is the worst that I've ever seen, and I'm not watching anymore. I can't afford the Sky Sports subscription, nor the F1 TV Pro. I'm cancelling the lot. Call me, wake me back up in 2025 or 26. That's what people are saying. And so this is why I get so enthusiastic about this and go scorched earth Cameron each and every single time, because now it's more important than ever. I was a loss for words in this sprint race qualifying this morning when I didn't know what was going on. My drivers put it on pole. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's a good news story for me and my subjectivity, only to realise that Lando Norris seconds later is on pole since they need to reinstate his hot lap. A god tier hot lap, by the way. Fair play, Lando. I'm happy for you, mate. I think that you can be that guy going forward, and I'm keen to see that fella fulfill his potential. That's my honest truth. I don't mind losing to Lando, but under those circumstances, what? Cancel the lap and then reinstate. Why? What? Because you made a mistake. And you guys will say, well, you know what? They got there in the end. What do you mean got there in the end? The regulatory body of F1, $1 billion sport for Pete's sake, got there in the end. Have you guys ever heard of Six Sigma? Fail fast, get it right first time. Whatever happened to that? What, the F1 teams, again, look, the gift of F1, it's the greatest minds in the world, right? They can solve anything. They can cure for incurable disease, for Pete's sake. And that's not even a joke, by the way. Go and check it. Best minds in the world. And so the regulatory bodies surely need to be commensurate with that. They need to act accordingly. Can't have another bloody sprint qualifying race that happens and comes to its conclusion and nobody knows the result. Or even worse, people think they know the result. Lewis has dropped it on pole. Crofty even builds up his momentum and his cadence in his iambic pentameter tone. Lewis has done it. He's back on pole. The first, Crofty says, since Hungary last year. Only to see Lando Norris's name jump to the top of the thing. Jomo, I've had enough. This is an absolute joke. It is not good enough, and something needs to change here. This forum isn't to solve for it. There are better minds that are on this. Again, listen, Break, you talk to him. Ex-performance engineer of one Max Verstappen, Python coded his thing. You can leverage some of that. Get somebody to code some of these things. Get some sensors. There are things that you can do, and it's not going to take billions of dollars of investment or infrastructure. Hire a full-time member as a steward, a knowledgeable one, a respected one by the drivers, that's approachable, that can talk to the drivers, can go up and talk to a Max Verstappen like Charlie Whiting used to. Where's that? No. Yet and still we get the same foolishness where we as fans are watching this sport and don't know the ultimate outcome. The reason why that is bad is because what else are we watching the sport for? I want to know who dropped it on pole. I want to know who won sprint quali today as soon as possible. I want to be able to trust the graphics that I'm seeing on my screen when it says Lewis Hamilton is at the top and the time has expired in the final session, Q3 of sprint quali. Can't trust it. Because they're doing one of these, right, VAR sense checking. They made a mistake and they've looked to renege on it and reinstate Lando, and they don't know what we're doing, and it was Abu Dhabi and it was track infringements, and then I still don't know what's going on. And Mohammed bin Salman, it's a cacophony of errors. The FIA is a pail of water with far too many holes in there. You almost need to throw it in the bin, right, and start again, afresh. And I feel like Liberty Media, together with the commercial rights holder, I feel like they've got to be looking at this. Now, they won't try and usurp Mohammed bin Salman because that process would be too messy. December of 2025, he will be out and there will be a new head in there. Bring back John Todd. I know John Todd doesn't want the position anymore, but it's got to be somebody like that who cares more about function than style and fashion. Mohammed bin Salem is too attention seeking, lacks competence. Openness and transparency is what we're missing. This is F1 for Pete's sake, Joe, mate. Do you know what I mean, Macon? AI, mate, but leverage AI, Macon. Why wouldn't you leverage AI? I mean, it's not like the humans are doing a brilliant job. That was a really, really bad mistake that we saw this morning, particularly from a viewer's perspective. But they haven't done anything for us. I don't even know. It's my fault, isn't it? Naivete extraordinaire from Cameron F1. Why would you expect anything different from the FIA at this point, given they're such serial killers as far as their incompetence and consistent inconsistency? We can go through the massive long list of rap sheets: Brazil, Abu Dhabi 21, Austria today, Lando the other day with the starts, the transponder with Checo Perez. Like, you could go through them ad infinitum. They are serial killers. And let me just say, if I flip it on its head ever so slightly for a second, F1 is not like football, let's say. It's not black and white always, right? F1 operates from a regulatory standpoint in the shade, in the area in between. There are shades of grey. Not everything can always be black and white. That's not the way it works. And so I understand from that standpoint why it can be difficult sometimes to gauge whether Max Verstappen was overly aggressive in turn 4 at Brazil in 2021. Shades of grey, you've got to make a judgment call, right? And in that sense, Macon, it might not be the best thing to have AI. There will always need to be an element of human judgment in F1. It's techie. It is a shade of grey type sport, but yet and still they need to do better than this. Like, even with that said, that notwithstanding, what we're getting at the moment, not even knowing at the end of a session who's won, or knowing, thinking that you know, and then it doesn't work. I think my Lando video would have fallen on deaf ears. NC Paddock, I'm telling you. But you saw Lando today, right? NC Paddock, 1.3 seconds ahead of the rest. That's not a bad lap. I think we want to cut Lando Norris some slack today at the very least. Now, whether he's got the minerals to smash it tomorrow, that's a different topic. And especially in the dry, you expect Max Verstappen to come clear. But I think we need to put some respect. You know, I will address the Lando. I want to take aim at the FIA for this video because I haven't finished with them just yet, Matthew. But I think we do need to, at some point, put some respect on one Lando Norris's name. He's a god-tier driver. Okay, so maybe he's not as resilient as some of the other ones, as a Lewis or a Max. Maybe that's not his forte and could potentially be his Achilles heel. But if we're measuring him by skill in the car, I think he's god-tier. Oscar Piastri won't see which way he's gone. Telling you. Even in a couple of years' time. But I digress. Look, the FIA need to fix themselves up. Have a look at the rules. Rewrite them. Make it clear so that F1 fans can understand. Be clear and transparent in your communication. How are we rocking up? I said this at the outset, and of course I need to revisit it. How are we rocking up at the Chinese Grand Prix, Shanghai International Circuit, and these guys, the stewards, aren't even aware that the track has been resurfaced until the Wednesday before the race on Sunday? That is absolutely outrageous, chat. Like, I cannot with that. The mind boggles. The extent of the incompetence is incredible. And the ramifications of such incompetence, of course, if you are dealing with drivers' lives, a dangerous sport, an intrinsically life-threatening sport, owing to the speeds that they're travelling at and the vehicles that they're travelling in, then these things matter. You need to sort out your house, FIA. You can't turn up to the track and not know the circumstance that you're dealing with in advance. Due diligence is a thing. We saw how important that was at the Las Vegas track last year. That could have worked out really bad. That manhole that came up and hit Carlos Sainz Jr. Just by virtue of the fact that nobody is injured, that doesn't mean that nobody couldn't have been injured. That's why your due diligence, your logistics, the ability for the FIA to prep in advance of a race weekend, particularly the Chinese Grand Prix that we haven't been to in yonks. Surely, FIA, you can do that at least. Surely You owe it to the drivers and the participants to keep them safe. Lest we forget that your remit, the scope of the FIA in the first instance, is as a regulatory body to keep all of the participants safe and to level the playing field as far as the competitive landscape, neither of which they have done, Jomo. And this is chaos. This is why I've got to go scorched earth on them each and every single time. Didn't even know the bloody track had been resurfaced. What are you talking about? And I thought Max was being really harsh after the Japanese Grand Prix, saying that he didn't think it was a good idea to have a sprint race weekend at a track that we haven't been to for yonks. You remember that's what Max Verstappen said, and I thought he was being harsh. What did I know? Look at that. I didn't know anything. Max Verstappen was absolutely on the money. This is a nonsense, guys. An absolute nonsense, because they don't prep, they don't do their due diligence, their processes aren't robust enough for a series as complicated as Formula One is. That's just the bloody truth. And I just don't think I don't think we should stand for it at this point. I don't know what the action is. It's a multifaceted problem that I don't know the solve for. It's far above my pay grade. But I say again, for the avoidance of doubt, F1 is a complicated sport in which the most intelligent people in the world compete. So surely then you can find some people with commensurate intelligence to hold the red pen as far as the regulatory body is concerned. NC Paddock, you're far too kind, sir. The RB20's weakness is always going to be tyre warm-up. And again, that's a strength for the likes of Mercedes. It inverses in the wet, right? The RB18 and 19 had it. It will fire on the dry. Max's mistake notwithstanding. What about Ross Brawn for FIA president, if not Todd? So he was commercial rights holder. He was president or head of the commercial rights holder before, wasn't Ross? I think he would be good, but he's been in the game a long time, hasn't he, NC Paddock, Matthew? And by the way, go and check out NC Paddock F1, God tier F1 channel on YouTube, of course. Ross has made it clear when he left his last position as head of the commercial rights holder in 2021, I want to say. I know he was president at Abu Dhabi as an example. When he left, he said he just wanted to go and fish, right? He'd been in and around F1 since the 90s, I think. Since the early 90s, maybe late 80s. And Ross Brawn had said he'd had enough, right? And that he just wanted to go and fish. He wanted to go, he's a fishing man, and that's all that he wanted to do. He'd had enough. In his mind, he felt like he'd done his tenure. He'd raced with Michael, and do you know what I mean? And he'd won with Brawn GP and Jensen Buzz, and I feel like that was the final bucket list ticked for Ross Brawn. But you could do with somebody like that, even though NC Paddock F1, Matty B, you could argue that his last gift to F1 was the rules and regs. The rules and regs, by the way, that were designed to encourage good racing, overtaking, and sadly they haven't quite worked. I don't think it's the rules and regs that haven't worked. I think the cost cap has hindered everything, per Adrian E. But I digress. Point being, FIA need to sort out their house, because this, as it stands as at April 2024, is absolutely not good enough. Incompetence at this extremis can be dangerous, and in a sport like F1 we can't afford for that to happen, and definitely not over this long lengthy period of time, because it's dangerous. How dare they turn up to the track and not even know that the surface has been resurfaced? What are we doing here? Honestly, chat, that enough is enough now. This is ridiculous. Wednesday and the race is bloody on Saturday, Sunday. You're having a laugh, FIA. Honestly, pull your finger out, FIA. Enough's enough, man. This is if incompetence can be dangerous, then this is that. I love this sport too much not to speak out about it. It is imperative that the powers that be of the regulatory body, the FIA, they act instantly. 2021, you had the opportunity, nothing done. 22 came and went again. You managed to seize defeat from the jaws of opportunistic victory. We are now in 2024. You've turned up at the Chinese Grand Prix and you didn't even know that the track had been resurfaced. You didn't even know. That is crazy talk. This is a sport that I love. FIA, fix up, do something better. Prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.